Join Gator great Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
You're live. It's live. It's PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We got a good show lined up. We'll have JC here momentarily. Then we'll have Blake Alderman for 24/7 Swamp 24/7 Sports, talking recruiting, portal, all that nonsense. A lot of good NFL yesterday. If you missed the Gators beat Richmond on Saturday in basketball. I think they have 2 games this week, East Carolina and Michigan. Some other news and notes. Army wins on the last play of the game on the 1-yard line against Navy. What a crazy game that was. So we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about today. Gators have a new DB coach, came from the Chargers. And anything else, any other your questions and comments, shoot them to us via YouTube or Facebook or on the Titan MR text line. JC, you're on the Titan MR. You're just courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. So how you feel about that?
Oh, I love it. Thank gosh. Thank goodness we have a home. QB, I want you to know I'm sitting out here doing this podcast in the elements. It's 41 degrees.
Well, whose fault is that?
Wait a minute. No, I'm letting you know that, I'm battling through it. I'm a tough podcaster. I'm tougher than you, QB. It's football season, and we're in December, and I'm a tough guy, and it's cold out, and I love this because yesterday I sat around watching the NFL at a restaurant in St. Augustine, and I was out on the porch facing inward to the bar. And by the way, QB, I gotta tell you, after this, I know people probably don't care about this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I've had this bout of strep throat for about 7-8 days, and I have not obviously had a lick to drink, and I felt great this whole week. And I went to the bar yesterday and drank water and tea. And honest to God, I don't know if I had slept 8 hours. Now, maybe it's because of this strep throat I caught, but honest to goodness, I feel great. And I did not miss drinking a beer for a second yesterday.
Well, maybe that's a clue.
Yeah, I feel great. And so I watched football for hours, and some of those games yesterday were just incredible. I was also reading about Florida stadium renovations. There's an uproar on the internet about it, and then of course some news and notes about guys coming and going. So goodness gracious, where do you start?
I'm gonna start here. Tony wants to know, name the restaurant you were at, JC.
Hurricane's Bar and Grill. I'm a local there, but honest to goodness, it was great. It was in St. Augustine A1A. I didn't drink a beer, and I didn't care. And I've been on these antibiotics, and I'm feeling better. And I just may keep this going for a while. Maybe even at the Rose Bowl, I may not. I may have to have a beer there, but I may not. You just never know how I am, QB. If I feel good, I'm going to keep it going. So,
yep.
At any rate, I watched this NFL yesterday. Where do you want to get started today, QB? NFL,
I want to answer Brandon's question here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law. He says, Shane, your thoughts on Cade Bell taking the Pitt OC job? Yeah, I knew that. I talked to Kerwin like twice a week. He also, Jerry Odom, former Gator, who had been the head coach for 8 years at Tusculum University, a D2 school, is going back to work with Kerwin. They were together at JU. He's going to be Kerwin's DC. And Kerwin's son is now the offense coordinator for Pat Narduzzi at Pitt.
That's awesome. So that's awesome.
It's great for Cade. Cade is I think Cade's probably 30, maybe 31. Very. When you talk about a coaching junkie or football junkie, his picture is next to it in the dictionary. Yeah. I've never seen a kid. He's a tremendous recruiter. Majority of the kids at Western Carolina that came from South Florida, Cade's responsible for them. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch Pitt offense.
Yeah, and he created these contacts, and Pat Narduzzi's a name in the sport. He's a name in the profession, and there he is now up at Pittsburgh. That's great news. And congratulations to our man Jerry Odom, who I think should be coaching.
It's good. I mean, Jerry did a tremendous job with the D2 program. When you only get like 20-something scholarships, now he can relax. He'll make more money, go work with Kerwin, and they got something good going on at Western Carolina. So.
Next stop, Gainesville.
Tony says Kerwin can hire Ernie Mills and get the band back there. Ernie has, I think Ernie's back in Dunellen. He's got a good wide receiver coach, JJ Laster, that was, I think, FCS Coach of the Year for receivers or something like that. So, anyway,
cool stuff. Good for those guys.
I got a question here. Everybody's wanting to know about the play. That play Travis Kelce made was unbelievable, by the way. Throw Kadarius Toney. He's had a bad year. That's why, when a couple of weeks ago or during football season, people were comparing Trey Wilson to Kadarius. I think Trey Wilson is a much better player than Kadarius Toney. He's more reliable. He's got better hands. Kadarius drops a lot of balls. He lined up all sides. That was unfortunate. But
Pat Mahomes,
Chiefs were struggling, man.
What did you think about Pat Mahomes' reaction there last night?
Well, he wasn't happy. I think he was yelling at the official.
I'll tell you what he was doing. He was showing leadership by venting his frustration not at the player who he knows was in the wrong, but at the official, showing that the player how much he's frustrated right now. Pat Mahomes is a great leader, and he may have to actually play a road playoff game this year. Even if they win the division, they win that first playoff game, they will then have to travel. And that would be something that Pat Mahomes has never done, QB. Did you know that? So they've got to figure out some offense, and they've got to figure out who's catching the football out there.
JC, we got a text here from an anonymous texter says, JC, it's pretty well known that alcohol messes with your sleep.
Yeah, well, and it's becoming better known by JC, and I'll tell you, I'm not all that eager to get to the after golf is when I typically have some. I just may say the hell with it. I don't know. I mean, after Alabama beats Michigan, I'll have one maybe, but I'm not celebrating the way I did against Georgia, and I paid the price with some strep throat and some other issues.
Yeah,
but I'm not going that route. I'm done with it. I like feeling this way.
We got a couple of YouTubers here brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Pierce Kuhn says Ike Hilder's a wide receiver coach somewhere, isn't he? No, he was at Auburn 2 years ago. They all got fired. I don't know where Ike is now. He says, I agree with Shane on most things, but not the Trey Wilson, Kadarius Toney point. Says I'm way off. Well, again, we have our opinions. I think Trey Wilson is a way more polished wide receiver than Kadarius Toney. I even said it when Kadarius Toney was here. I didn't think he was a very good wide receiver.
Well,
he's good with the ball in his hands, but he does not catch the ball very well at all.
He's having a bad year.
He's dropped about 10end balls this year.
Yeah, it's not been
you don't drop balls in that league, or they will get rid of you in a heartbeat.
In a millisecond. Watching the Dolphins on Hard Knocks, that is a happy football team, QB. They are 9-3. They get a Monday night game tonight. They should win it pretty easily, I would think. And that's something I highly recommend folks watch if they're into that behind-the-scenes kind of thing. Maybe you aren't as much as some of the fans out there, but it's fun to watch the Dolphins. That's a happy team. When I mean happy, what I'm saying is they really get on each other. They love each other. It seems like when Jalen, what's his name? Jalen, one of those players they had on linebacker, he tore his Achilles against the Jets. And, man, that team is really together, a really close team. Now, winning helps, obviously, and that's what they're doing right now. And right now the Dolphins are either 1 or 2 in the AFC. So if they get to play at home, that could be trouble. They get 4 of their last 5 games at home. The Dolphins do. Schedule doesn't look bad. I think Miami is a 1 or 2 seed. And yesterday, the Jaguars had another opportunity with teams behind them losing and other teams in other divisions losing. And the Jaguars played maybe one of the most fundamentally flawed games I've watched all season long. I don't know what Doug Peterson is smoking. He made some of the quirkiest calls, and I've been the biggest Doug Peterson defender along with you. But yesterday, he dropped the ball, man. They made some bad plays, bad decisions, and they made some foolish turnovers. Bad routes being run by wide receivers. Offensive line, I know injuries are part of this, but the offensive line couldn't block anything. Trevor was on his back, and this is against the Cleveland team using Joe Flacco. So I just think that, and nothing against Joe Flacco, but he's old as hell and he was sitting on a sofa about 3 weeks ago. But the Jags blow it. They blow it. Now they're 8-5, and they're fighting for their lives to get a 4th seed and be a home team in the first round of the playoffs. Forget about the 1 or 2. They had a chance, but they've lost to Cincinnati and they've lost to Cleveland in back-to-back weeks, and there's no excuse for that. So yeah. Jags are that was bad football. And then the Rams go to Baltimore. Rams are beating up on the Ravens. 3rd and 16, game clock running out, and they allow the Ravens to complete a 20-yard touchdown pass. And then in the overtime, they allow a 76-yard punt return with about, 3 or 4 blocks in the back that don't get called. And the Ravens are now in the driver's seat at 10-3 to be the 1 seed in the AFC. So Ravens have a couple of tough games, including Jacksonville next week, but that's tough for Jacksonville too. So I think the NFL is starting to form. December is when we start to see the clay mold, and I got a feeling that we're going to start finding out who gets the 1 and 2 seeds here quickly. San Francisco looks like the team to beat, in my opinion, in the whole damn league. And the Denver Broncos are alive, by the way. The Denver Broncos.
Sean Payton can coach, man.
Yes, he can. And man, have they really woken up out there in Rocky Mountain world. And I'm kind of liking that. I kind of like that. I like seeing Denver play well. Their fans are probably one of the top 3 most fanatical and loyal fans in the NFL. So I'm happy for them. I'm happy for the Bills. They finally got a win in Kansas City. Got some help there, but neither doesn't matter. Buffalo won the game without a running game, and that's the problem with the Bills, QB. They cannot run the football. I don't know if that's going to help them when it comes to playoff time, but I wouldn't want to play the Bills. So that's what we're looking at in the AFC.
All right, got several questions here about the new DB coach. He's coming from the Chargers. I know nothing about him. I know nothing about a D-line coach. 10 of them could walk in my house, and I wouldn't know any of them.
You can read him on Google. Read about him on Google.
I don't have any idea. Nat says, didn't Tony play quarterback in high school? Yes. Same way with Kwesi Green. Pretty much almost all of Spurrier's wide receivers were high school quarterbacks. People can agree or disagree with me. I think Trey Wilson's better than Kadarius Toney. I mean, that's my thought. You think differently, so that's fine.
All right, QB. What about? I want to bring up this subject.
Let me read this real quick, though. This is Chris from Mayaca. He wants to know, what did I think about the broadcasters' thoughts about the Army-Navy game? I only saw the last 2 drives. I was playing golf. They should do a U.S. tour and play the game in a different stadium each year. No other teams are playing that week. It'd be great, I think.
No, I don't think so. The Army-Navy folks want it to be in Philadelphia, and the reason for that is because of the familiarity. And the reason I know that is because I know quite a few of them that served in their academies. They don't want to travel around. I know a lot of guys who, they say the game was in Boston. It wasn't in Boston, folks. And Joe Cox, I said his name. I shouldn't even say I bring up these people's names. I shouldn't be doing that, but he doesn't care. Listen, I know all these folks who served. They played at the academies. They want that game in Philadelphia. It's familiar. It's a big reunion. That's what that game is for those people from both academies. And QB, I don't understand that during the season when I watch Army and Navy play, it doesn't feel like throwing a forward pass is nearly as difficult as it does when they both play. Maybe they have an agreement before the game that, hey, you know what? Let's not pass the ball. Let's get this done in 2 hours and make it dramatic at the end. Okay, you agree, good. And I don't know why that game was close. Army was a quicker team. Army, I think, was a better team. But Navy could have easily tied the game. And I think it's one of those situations where the Army is a 6-6 team. So they're bowl eligible now. They're going to join the AAC, by the way. They're going to join the conference next year. They're not going to be independent anymore. And I think it's a great move. But Monken made some weird calls, too, on the sideline as the coach in the Army. And we've got to do something about these analytics. I'm bouncing around pretty heavy here, QB. I know time's limited. But these analytics are destroying these coaches' better judgment. And all that is an excuse for a bad decision using analytics. And I saw it twice. Peterson yesterday just blew my mind with some of his thinking at the end of the game. I think it helped ruin that outcome for Jacksonville. They weren't playing well anyway, but they had a chance. And
both those teams, I watched some of that. There was like 7 turnovers in the game. Both teams were sloppy.
Brutal. But the Army, they win. This is something like their 3rd or 4th straight win, I think. It's a streaky series, but it's a great one. But it's hard to watch when you can't throw a 15-yard pass. And then Army playing this soft coverage, allowing Navy to just – I'm telling you, I think there was agreement before the game. Let's just make it interesting at the end. Who the hell cares? We got to go serve anyway and do what we got to do. I know that's crazy, but it was brutal to watch. God, I guess I've just gotten spoiled after watching, Alabama, Georgia, Washington, Oregon.
It is amazing that they
Texas.
have trouble completing a pass in those games.
Very simple routes, QB, nothing crazy.
Well, usually their quarterbacks can't throw at all. They'll find one every now and then it can throw a hitch or a post or something.
Yeah.
They need the guy to be wide open. JC, your thoughts on the Heisman Trophy? There's no surprise to me at all.
No surprise. And I was surprised that somebody I thought said it was a close vote. It didn't feel close.
It didn't look close to me. I looked at the ballots.
I didn't see it be close. I mean, he won by a couple hundred votes, didn't he? So
like 200 or 300. I guess that's close. I don't know.
Listen, good for that kid. He, I got to tell you, when he came from Arizona State and landed at LSU, his first 6 games as a Tiger were rough. They did not go well. Brian Kelly was trying to feel him out. He was trying to feel Brian Kelly out, and it was not easy for Jalen Daniels. But as his career progressed, you could see how he got better and better and better. And then this year, he blew out the numbers, blew them out. So you have to acknowledge that and congratulate him. And that was about the only good thing that went on for LSU. LSU. Everybody wants to talk about LSU football. They've lost 7 games in 2 years. So cheers, Tigers. Cheers, Jux, Tigers.
Well, he's the most outstanding player in college football. I mean, it wasn't even close. Wasn't even close.
But those other 2 kids the other 3 are all Sunday players. I mean, every one of them.
I don't see. I think, Mike, I don't see Bo Nix being a pro quarterback. I don't. I think he'll get drafted and he'll last 2 or 3 years. I don't know why. I have nothing against him. He's so sporadic to me, and I don't know.
77%.
Yeah, but he threw as many balls or more balls behind the line of scrimmage than Graham Mertz did. I just don't. I don't know. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be better than Lamar Jackson because I think he's a much better thrower of the football. Somebody just talked about, JC, did you see this game that North Dakota State basketball team played yesterday?
Oh, the basketball? No, I'm sorry. I missed that.
I don't know who they played, but they won the game 108-14.
Well, I don't know what the point of that was. What are they playing? Who are they playing? I mean, who cares?
I don't know. I guarantee you, even if they played a middle school team, I don't know. That's just crazy.
I'll tell you what, they let the South Dakota Coyotes know who they are, and they're heading back to another FCS championship. Although Montana is no joke, the Grizzly. I'll tell you what, you get into the college football playoffs, the FCS playoffs are outstanding.
They're so fun.
Oh, they're great. This time next year, though, we'll have FBS playoffs at this time. So we've got NFL getting better in December. We'll have 6 playoff games. We would have had 6 playoff games this weekend had it not been for the pettiness of the ACC commissioner and the Big Ten former commissioner and the unemployed Pac-12 commissioner, okay? We would have had 6 playoff games this weekend just passed. Let that be known that FSU would have been playing yesterday. So, fine. Okay, fine. So next year, we'll have to just do it next year. That's just the way it is. But QB, the NFL yesterday I thought was really interesting, and I got to say Jacksonville is gagging. And Dallas, I know you say they don't beat anybody worth a darn, but the Eagles have played poorly the last 2 weeks.
But they remind me of the Rams. They only play good at home.
The Eagles?
No,
Dallas. Well, maybe, but they surely looked good. I'll tell you what's going to happen to poor old Dallas. If everything holds and all of the favorites go out and win, meaning San Francisco, Philadelphia for the rest of the year, Philly will win their division, San Francisco will win theirs. Dallas will be a 5 seed. They will have to travel to either Atlanta, New Orleans, or Tampa. They'll beat one of those teams in the first round of the playoffs, and they have to go play the Niners. That's what Dallas gets for winning 13 games this year, 12 games, something like that. But they shouldn't have lost the Cardinals. If the Dallas Cowboys don't lose to the Cardinals, they have 2 losses in this case, then they would be the top seed in the NFC. If they lost to the Cardinals, now they get to go play the Bills and the Dolphins. That'll be tough. The Eagles play the Giants twice, the Redskins, and the Seahawks. That's no joke either. The Seahawks game next week on Monday Night Football. The Eagles have looked like crap the last 2 weeks, have clearly gotten beaten by better teams. San Francisco and Dallas right now are better than the Eagles. and the Eagles have to go play Seattle next week on the road on Monday Night Football. They could lose that game. They could lose.
49ers are the best football team in the league. Radware is a family-owned business that prides itself in excellent customer service by providing quality and affordable promotional products and customized apparel. They got JC on the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. We're going to have Blake Alderman get ready for your recruiting questions. He'll have all that stuff because I don't follow it.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. But I got a question for you, QB. I'm sorry to keep going all over the map here, but again, time. Florida announced the potential $420-something million expansion. So people,
why don't we just get the dude that plays for the Dodgers to pay for
it? Ohtani. Now that's another crazy number. $35 million after he pays everybody per year for 10 years is $350 million. That's basically what he's going to get paid, and that's insane. But having said, listen, the Gators going to get this big renovation. Everybody worries about where's all the money. Okay, some money's going to be there. Fans went crazy on Twitter and went nuts about the renovation, and it shocked me. I thought that's what you want. That's the kind of thing you need. Don't you want to be comfortable?
The fans, JC, fans can't make up their mind. They're going to complain about something.
Why are we spending money on this old stadium when we should be getting coaching staff and this and that? And that? Listen, they're paying those coaches a load of money. But the stadium is getting renovated. That's like a dream come true for me. I grew up watching games at Florida Field, and back in the 70s and 80s, it was great. Today, it's a dump. And that's what people want. They want it to be a dump because it's a home field advantage. It's loud. It's this. It's that. It's got character. It's whatever it is. I'm telling you, folks, you're going to like it when you have chairback seats. You're going to love it, actually. You're going to love it. I don't know why people are upset about a renovation to the stadium, but I think it's good news. And yet people are complaining about it happening. It's hopefully not everybody's complaining. I won't be.
Oh, everybody is. Everybody is.
I don't get it. I don't understand it. They're paying the coaches, folks. Don't worry about that.
Edward says he wants 90,000 plus in the Swamp. So what is it going to reduce the capacity? What, JC? Do you have any idea?
I think you're going to get it down from 90 or 88, whatever the capacity is now, to in the 70s, and I think that's fine. Listen, nobody goes to listen. That's going to be fine. It's going to look fuller. It's going to be a hell of a lot more comfortable.
This person here, JVP, says spend the money on the players. You can't spend that money on the players. I think that's where people are confused.
Okay, so unconfuse me here, because that money has to come from somewhere. And whether they're going to float a bond, are they going to go do a fundraiser? No, that money comes from somewhere. A lot of it's from the private sector.
No. Look. What I'm saying is NIL money cannot. If I work in Gator Boosters or I work in the UAA, I cannot give JC, the left tackle from Interlochen, money.
I get that, but QB, the money is coming from a source.
The source is, like I've told you, it comes from the Bull Gators or the big donors.
Oh, okay, stop.
They're gonna write a check and they're gonna say, "I want my money."
Okay.
They're either gonna write a check to the collective, the Florida Victorious, or they're gonna write a check to the UAA Gator Boosters. Okay, that's their decision.
Sure,
that's their decision.
I know, and I've been talking about this, QB, for months. Who are the guys with the money going to write the check to? Y'all tell us, who do we write it out to? Because I'm writing one. And that's the thing I want to know.
It's not y'all tell us. The person writing the check tells them where he wants the money to go.
Right, but for the first time, he's had a choice to send it somewhere other than the UAA.
And my point is, I believe a lot of people don't believe in buying players. Now, I'm not saying all of them. I'm just saying some do.
Okay, well, that's good. But we complain about players not getting paid what the other schools are paying them, aren't we? And that's why their people are deciding on what they want to do. It's a decision on the person writing and signing the check. Correct. And that's what I wanted to point out.
JC, so if you were a Bull Gator, you just sit here and told us that you wanted chairbacks. So if you wrote a big check, yours is going to the stadium fund.
Listen, I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer.
No, I'm just using you as an example.
You're damn right, because I don't want them floating an 8% bond. I don't want them floating a 10.5% high yield bond to pay for this. Hell no. But that's when I hear people say We ain't got no money here. Oh, we got money here, folks. Probably more than anybody. Alabama,
I don't know about that.
Yeah, hell, we do. $450 million going into chairbacks and water fountains and bathrooms. I think we got money, QB. I just believe we do. It's Florida. My God, you got 22 million people in the state, and there's more Gator grads out there running around. I'm a Gator. You're a Gator. You know, we're all Gators. Well,
all right. Joseph says,
I think there's a right or wrong answer here.
Joseph says, interesting article from the UA basically saying Jeremy Foley's people are still in charge in key positions that are hindering Florida from being great. Like, well, the whole staff is the same staff as when I played here, pretty much. Except, yeah.
Chip Howard running it over there?
Who?
Chip Howard?
Yeah, they're all there.
Okay.
The same people when I played and the same people that were there when Foley was here
yeah,
are all under the guidance of Scott Strickland.
I've seen Chip running around out here playing golf. Heard you had a great time playing golf out here the other day, QB.
Oh my God! Glad to have
you out, QB.
That was the dumbest damn thing I've ever done in my life.
You got caught in the superintendent's revenge MGA setup.
But JC, I understand making hard pin placements, but don't put tractors and shovels.
It's a gimmicky
there was
thing.
22 shovels and rakes on a green.
Can I just say, though, that
it's the dumbest damn thing I've ever been a part of.
Can I just say, though, that your pain that day entertained me and our friend for about an hour on the phone laughing. And in fact, he laughed so hard about it, he called me on the phone. Old Shane thinks, yeah.
It was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. They put a hole. You saw it. The hole was cut on the fringe. Half in the rough, half. It was just dumb.
It's an end-of-year gimmicky thing they do for the MGA here. You just got to understand. That's what clubs do. Every club does.
It's the dumbest thing ever. All right. Before we get to Blake Alderman, Brandon has a question here on Facebook Live brought to you by Metal Law. Shane, if you were a high school player and considering two schools, one with your position coach already on staff and the other without, how hard would it be to choose the school without? I don't really. It wouldn't bother me. I don't think position coaches are that important, quite honestly. I mean, I think they are, but they change so much. I think you got to just figure out what's the best situation, who the head coach is, and what school you're going to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of factors. I wouldn't just say the position coach is a factor.
Yeah, but recruiting, these position coaches recruit certain players and they fall in love with them, right? And they get a
well, the position. Here's what people don't realize. A lot of times position coaches aren't the person recruiting that person. Coaches have territories. So JC, if you're that left tackle at Interlochen, okay, the offensive line coach may not be his territory.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's how it works.
That's true. Heard that too.
People keep asking me about Charlie Partridge as a D-line coach. I don't know anything about him. I don't know anything about D-line coaches anywhere. Have no idea who it's going to be.
Well, QB, before you get me out of here, pick the Titans and Dolphins 14. Miami is -14. And then there's a game also at the same time.
I'll take the Titans.
And then there's another game on at the same time. The Packers and the Giants. The Giants have played better here lately.
There's 2 Monday night games?
Yeah, and the Packers are laying 6.
Who are they playing?
The Giants. Packers playing better lately, but so are the Giants. Giants could have a say in how that NFC.
I'll take both underdogs. NFL's crazy, man.
It is +6 for the Giants, +14.
Why are they having 2 Monday night games?
That is.
Can we watch both of them, or the one of them on like pay-per-view?
No. The one game is going to be on ABC. That would be the Packers game, and then the Dolphinos play the Titans on ESPN. So it's same network, different channels.
I wonder if Peyton and Eli are on tonight. That's all. That's the only thing I watch.
Right. Well, they were on last week. I got a feeling that these games they are not going to be on because they're on 2 different networks. But I could be wrong. But I do enjoy that with YouTube QB. It's fun. Sometimes when they have a guest on there that I'm not interested in hearing about, I'll turn it over to Troy. But I love watching Peyton and Eli. Those guys will teach you a lot. And they
Seth says Jess Simpson from Duke will be our D-line coach. Don't know him. I wouldn't know him. Like I said, he called me up right now, said, I'm coming over. I got to drop something off. I wouldn't know who he is.
If the guy's name was Mac Johnson, would it matter to you, QB?
No.
It wouldn't matter to me either. I just, these are not things. When we start following assistant coaches' names and where they come from, then we got a lot to do, and it's not playing football. And I get it. It's okay. Please don't yell at me. That's what you're interested into. It's the first time this is what 5 and 7 teams that don't go bowling do. They look at assistant coaches and who's coming in and who's going out. I couldn't care less. I always wait for the press release and go, oh, that's nice. Hope he does well. And there's a house over there in West Gainesville for him somewhere.
All right, JC, have a good day. No drinking. We got to get to Blake Alderman.
Yeah,
we're going to take a quick timeout. We come back, talk a little recruiting, shoot me your questions and comments, and we'll see if Blake can answer them. You're watching and listening to PodUp Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, watch. Duffield Home Improvements for your window, siding, and roofing needs. Radware, your local provider of promotional products, uniforms, and apparel. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Radware, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Q Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith understands your joint pain.
It does not surprise me that there are a ton of people out there that's in pain.
That's why Emmitt is such a proponent of QC Kinetics, offering real lasting joint pain relief with non-surgical, all-natural biologic treatments.
Whether it's a joint pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, any kind of pain, the body eventually will break down when it's under that much stress.
That stress can cloud your judgment to the point that you'll just say yes to the scalpel or yes to another prescription of pain pills. But maybe it's time for a second opinion from QC Kinetics.
The reason why I would recommend this is because the natural biologics that QC Kinetics is providing you gives your body a chance to naturally heal itself.
Restorative, regenerative solutions are here. Get lasting relief and live your life.
Call QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550.
Hi there, this is Coach.
Serve you small enough to care. Ruse Ogre State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Call them up, 352-240-1779. We're going to head to the Titan More hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. We're joined by the recruiting specialist, Blake Alderman, 24/7 Sports. How you doing, my man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
All right, let's we already got a bunch of questions here. I'm gonna fire them at you here. This is from Daniel on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. It says, Blake, any update on Xavier and TX? I don't know who these people are. Also, is LJ locked in after visiting Auburn and Florida State? On threes predicting Xavier flips. Whoever those people are.
Okay,
I don't know who they are.
He's talking about Xavier Fields-Aimee, who is Florida's five-star safety commit out there in McKinney, Texas.
Oh, the kid from Texas, yeah.
Right. And I mean, update from me is, Billy Napier is scheduled to be out one day this week. I haven't quite touched base with their camp to see exactly what day. I think they're kind of waiting for Will Harris, Florida's projected defensive backs coach that they're supposed to hire. To get that everything announced and squared away, and they should be out one day this week. As far as where I'm at, I'm leaning towards Texas from him. I think that at this point, he was surprised by Corey Raymond, his departure from Florida. Texas had been, kicking the tires on him for the last couple months, making a play for him, and I think they'd gotten some footing. And just a lot of the change and the unknown right now, I think, has Texas in a little bit better of a spot. He wants to get to know Will Harris. I think they've, had some conversations, here and there, between his camp and just kind of touch and base there as the hire basically becomes, it just seems like it just needs to become official basically for it to be official. It's not announced until it's announced, I guess. But Florida they're still battling, like I said, they've got that in-home visit with Napier and some of the other staff coming up this week. But I think the biggest hurdle for Florida also is that the Texas Longhorns will be getting Xavier on campus this coming weekend, right before the dead period kicks in and the early signing period is here for an official visit. So I think there's still some fight left on Florida's end. I feel like I'm trending towards Texas, at least where I'm at with him, just based on what I'm hearing and just kind of reading the tea leaves as well. But Florida's trying to see if they can swing any momentum back their way, and they're not going down without a fight. And I think there was some other parts of that question too. Can you run that back to me, please?
About LJ McCray visiting Auburn and Florida State.
I think it's something that I'm keeping eyes on. Whereas Xavier visiting Texas and fielding interest from Texas is something to where I feel like there's some reason for concern there. I am keeping track on LJ with, his visits he's taken, because even after he committed to Florida there in late October, he's visited Miami, he's visited Florida State. He did fit 2 visits to Florida in that span, but now he's visited Florida State once again. He's visited Auburn. So you always, watch the visits is kind of the saying that people have in recruiting. And, I'm certainly keeping track on him because he does continue to take those trips. But from all I've heard, I do think it's going to be tough to flip him from Florida. Will that change as visits settle in and coaches come by this week to do in-home visits? And, LJ is actually really good at not really saying very much whenever he speaks to media and people. He's very guarded. His dad is a former college coach at Bethune-Cookman. So LJ's been coached up, man, to speak with media and not really give very much of where his head's at. So I do think that Florida hangs on for him, but I do think that there's going to be some battles there with just coaches continuing to chip away. And, and LJ is an elite talent, a 5-star guy, one of the premier positions there as on the defensive lines, as edge rusher guy. Schools aren't just going to quit whenever you've got an elite talent like that. But I do think as of right now, I would lean towards Florida hanging on for him.
Question on the Titan MR text line. Blake, what's your opinion of the JUCO D tackle prospect who visited this weekend?
That would be Brian Taylor. He's the JUCO defensive lineman there out of Blinn Community College, I think that he's built well. I saw him on campus this past weekend whenever he took his official visit and measured him this past weekend at 6'4.5", 281. So that's a big boy. I think that with Florida, they're seeing him as kind of that F position guy, which is basically a defensive end in their defense, a guy that could bounce between playing the 5 technique, slide inside and play the 3. So you've got some versatility there. You've got some size, obviously. And you've got a guy that even if it is at the junior college level, he's got some sense of college experience. So Florida needs bodies along the defensive line. I expect that to be a position that they focus on, which you could see having 2 guys from the transfer portal this past weekend on campus for an official visit. You've got Brian Taylor there. Florida's trying to build up that front line on defensive line. You've lost some guys more on the interior part, not counting Princely, who's more of the jack there in their defense. But Florida's going to pay attention to the defensive line between the portal and whatever they can shade through from JUCO high school recruiting. I know that JUCO guys, you look at them, they don't play as many games as some high school guys. You don't really see the stat line that maybe pops. I think he had something like 2 sacks this year. So the stat line may not pop, but you've got a guy that's got the measurables. I think every college coach in America sees a guy and you see the measurables and they're like, oh man, I can coach this guy up. I can turn this guy into this, that, and the other. That's kind of the college coach thinking, but he certainly looks good with the frame, just seeing him on campus, and he should be making a decision either Monday, which would be today, or tomorrow. He hasn't quite locked in that. I would probably lean towards, just from how he was talking after his official visit, that it's possible that's a Monday thing. He's down to Florida, Auburn, Tennessee, and Georgia. I think Florida has put themselves in a really good spot coming out of the official visit, and I think he's a guy to keep an eye on.
What about the other guys that were here? Wasn't there like a DB from Oregon?
There was. Triquez Burgess, I think was his. I'm sorry. He's from Oregon. Bridges, sorry. I have called him Burgess all weekend, and I did it on Sunday after, and I do apologize to him for butchering his last name. But he's a defensive back from Oregon. He's got 1 year left of eligibility. He's a guy that has played safety. He's played cornerback at Oregon. His best year through his college career came in 2022 whenever he had a really good year for Oregon out there. I think he had some kind of all-conference honors, something to that effect. But he's a guy that has versatility. I think he could even play some star. He's got a big frame, really long. He's got a little meat on his bones too. He's not kind of like a twig. But he's a guy that, Florida said basically that, they could see him playing anywhere in the secondary, and if they were able to land him, they could really plug and play him. And I think whenever you look at Florida, whether it's at safety, they've got some young guys there at the safety position. Cornerback, you've got some young guys, depending on who you return there at cornerback, just because I feel like this is portal season where you may know what you've got on your roster one day, and it may be totally different the next day, just how things move there. But Florida could really use him, whether it's at star, because Jaden Hill, what he decides to do there, Florida be young there. Safety, for the most part, is pretty young for Florida. Cornerback, they've got some young pieces, but Florida could really use some help anywhere there on the defensive in the defensive secondary. DeAndre Jules was a defensive lineman at a Pitt that is in the transfer portal. He visited this past weekend. He did not want to speak with the media after his official visit, so I've kind of had to kick the tires a little bit more, just checking around with people there. Basically, I mean, he had a really good official visit. Florida feels like they put themselves in good position for him. He was a good-looking defensive lineman himself. He's listed on Pitt's website for their team site as a 310-pound defensive lineman. And I'm not sure where he's hiding all that weight, because he has no bad weight on his frame. He was, well put together for a defensive lineman. Seemed like he wasn't kind of a big dumpy type guy, if that makes sense. What you think of kind of a nose. Seems like he may have a little bit of twitch in there to play some 3. Obviously, if he is 310, because I didn't bring my scale out there to measure him up myself on Sunday after official visits. But if he does have that size, he could play some nose. It's just a good piece to put in there for the defensive line for Florida. I do believe that USC out in California will be his next official visit. So he's continued to take some trips. Transfer portal guys are tough because these guys could set all the visits in the world, but they could pop on their first or second visit. Those guys really just, the portal moves very quickly, but, at this point, it seems like he's going to take some more visits. Joey Slackman was another defensive lineman Florida hosted there out of the transfer portal, right there out of Penn. He was an Ivy League all-conference guy. He was one of the top transfer portal guys on 24/7 Sports transfer rankings. So he's a guy that, another guy that has a lot of experience there. He's really kind of known as a leader. I believe he was a captain at Penn this past season. And Florida got him on campus last weekend. He's been to Wisconsin. He mentioned scheduled trips to Virginia Tech, North Carolina, Michigan. So depending on how those visits shake out, we'll see, because again, portal things, they change very quickly. But Florida, again, does feel like they set themselves up in a good position with him coming out of the visit. And another portal guy, Chamir Dyke, and if I butchered his name, I'm sorry, because that one was a little tough for me to sit there and try to figure out the pronunciation, but that's a former Wisconsin wide receiver in the portal. He is, has some familiarity with Graham Mertz from their time at Wisconsin together. Dyke's best season came in 2022 when Graham Mertz was his quarterback. So that's another one that he left before I was able to get out there. I was out there at 9 a.m., so he must have left sometime really early. So that's one that I probably would need to check a little bit more on. I'm not sure about future visits, timelines, really kind of where Florida's at with him. But those were the portal guys Florida hosted. And past that, Noel Portagen, Florida's offensive line commit from Germany. He was out there this past weekend for an official visit. He's actually finished with school. I think he finished sometime in May. So he'll hang around in the States, and his official visit started on Saturday, so I'm not quite sure if his stretched into today. But he's going to hang around the States, and he should be moving in, getting settled, because he's done with school. Get there and get acclimated. But once he gets moved in, he'll be able to work out with the facilities and really get a head start on his college career. And I mentioned Brian Taylor, the JUCO guy that was there this past weekend for the official visit. Gregory Smith is a defensive back that Florida offered around October, offered on a Friday right before the Vanderbilt game. He was in town for the Vanderbilt game right after that. He's been to see Florida in Jacksonville when they played Georgia. He's been to the Florida State game. So, and then the official visit last weekend. So that's 4 visits to Florida. I think that Florida is the team to beat for him. As of now, heading into a possible December 13 decision date, he's kind of figuring out, maybe fine-tuning that. It had potentially, it previously had been December 13th. He's talking about maybe moving it to the 15th. But either way, I like where Florida sits for him, regardless of what day he picks. Jaden Baugh is an Arkansas commit, a running back commit there out of Decatur, Georgia. He visited this past weekend for an official visit. It's his second time this fall visiting Florida. He's been committed to Arkansas since the spring. Florida's continued to push for him since around late part of the summer. I think Florida's in a really good spot. I think at this point, both Alabama, who will host him on an official visit this coming weekend, and Florida, who hosted him this past weekend, are the biggest threats to Arkansas. At this point, I think it's more than likely he flips than he sticks to Arkansas. I think the tricky part right now is who is he going to flip to? Will it be Florida? Will it be Alabama? Can Arkansas somehow come in here in the 11th hour and right heading up to signing day and somehow swing this back in the momentum back in their way, because he is close to Jimmy Smith, Arkansas's running back coach. But at this point, it seems like a matter of who he'll flip to between Florida and Alabama. But the Crimson Tide will get him on campus this weekend, coming up weekend on the 15th. Jameer Grimsley was the last official visitor there. He's a defensive back. He's been committed to Alabama since around June, July, summertime, something like that. But Florida's continued to chip away at him. He's grown up there in Tampa. He goes to Tampa Catholic, so he's grown up a Florida fan, really familiar with just their history and their program, just growing up being a fan there. He was close with Corey Raymond, so it was a bit of a shock to see him move on from the program. But I think Florida has done a good job of getting guys like, Billy Gonzalez, who's poked in and out of there in Tampa Catholic, Billy Napier, who's been involved there with him. Just kind of a collective effort from the staff has kept Florida still in the picture for him. I do think it's going to be a tough flip from Alabama. The stability with Alabama, the fact that Nick Saban is so hands-on with defensive backs, a lot of those things really kind of seem to be, players for why he committed there. Those were some of the reasons why after his official visit, he mentioned why, Alabama has been the spot for him and some of the things they're pitching. So I'm not too sure on a flip there. I think I would lean towards him sticking with Alabama. But that's another guy that Billy Napier still hasn't used his in-home visit, so I expect that to take place this week. Will Harris is a guy he mentioned that he expected to be out there. Austin Armstrong. So Florida's going to take their last shot this week when they come in there for the in-home. But that's pretty much the guys that were on campus this past weekend for Florida official visit-wise.
And Andy has a question on Facebook Live brought to you by Melon Law. Do you think Fletcher Westphal starts for the Gators on the offensive line next year?
I think it's tough to trust a freshman to come in there for any team in the SEC. Especially at the offensive tackle position. It's not like it's unheard of, but, he's going to be an early enrollee. He's got the size. Being an early enrollee obviously gets you in the program quickly, and those are the guys that if you're going to be a freshman, unless you're, kind of a freak of nature like Eugene Wilson, who, wasn't an early enrollee and still was able to make the impact he is. But 9 times out of 10, a lot of those guys that are freshmen that make the impacts, those are the ones that get there and enroll early. But I'm curious with Florida just because they return a lot of the guys in the offensive line. You would think that the NCAA transfer portal is going to be an area where they vet some guys there on the offensive tackle. You certainly would hope so, at least, just seeing the depth issues and just needing, extra infusion of talent there at the offensive tackle position. They missed out on a guy like Jordan Seaton, who's ranked the #1 offensive tackle, who committed to Colorado. So I think that the portal is going to be an area where Florida vets some guys at tackle. I don't know that I would be completely shocked if Fletcher somehow gets into the program and really thrives in the strength and conditioning and really thrives in spring football if he's someone. I don't know about starting so much, but I could see him being someone that at least was in the rotation.
Yeah. Michael has an interesting question here, Blake. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but, there's been word out there about these kids asking for money just to come on a visit. So he says, is UF paying for players from high school to visit campus unofficially?
I'm not sure. I'm not a banker. I'm not, the IRS guy for them. I'm not checking their funds, and looking at their books over and over again. You hear the rumors just covering recruiting and you see things on the internet. Would I be surprised if that's just how the world works in college football now? No, but, we've been talking about the bag man and the money guys since before I was born in recruiting, so I don't know what Florida does there. I've never seen any types of, $100 handshakes for Florida or any school. So I'm not really too sure on that, but obviously you see the rumors and you hear things just, through the rumor mill, through recruiting. And that's not just a Florida thing. Like that's just a, college football recruiting rumor mill type thing. So I'm not too sure on that myself.
All right. Last thing for you. Where do you think this class ends up in the rankings? People have been asking, do you think it'll be a top 10 class?
I'm not sure. I think right now, as far as 24/7, they rank 6th. But I think a lot of these things are contingent on guys like Xavier Fields-Aimee, another guy that's committed to Florida, and Amaris Williams, who's taken some visits. LJ McCray is one that I did mention that I do think Florida hangs on to, but that's a highly ranked guy that is taking some visits, and Florida's got a battle for him. So I think in the large part of, will Florida hang on to those guys? Because if any of those guys were to depart the class, that drops them out of the top 10. You would think they're going to add some guys there ahead of signing day, guys like Brian Taylor that I think Florida's in a good spot for, Gregory Smith, a guy that I think Florida's in a good spot for. And there could be some other guys that maybe I'm not aware of that Florida could potentially add, going forward. But the way that the rankings work, from the recruit rankings, whether that be high school guys and JUCO guys, they rank 6th there right now. So I think a lot of that depends on where, maybe they hold on to guys, who they add. I think, as of right now, if I'm sitting here saying that I think Texas is trending, and I would probably lean that way for a guy like Xavier Fields-Aimee, that's going to drop their class ranking if he were to depart the class. So we'll see. But rankings do also, at least on 24/7, you can toggle them if you go on the site between recruiting rankings. You can look at just portal class rankings, and you can add them together. So I think if you're looking at the overall rankings, which does combine portal and high school recruits and JUCO guys, that it depends on which ranking you want to look at. The portal rankings will depend on where Florida gets the guys out of the portal there, where they finish final rankings wise. But just looking at the recruiting rankings, I think it's going to be tough to hang on to a top 10 class, just given where things look at right this second on Monday at 8:51 in the morning, where guys are maybe like I mentioned, Xavier's trending right now. I do think Texas is probably the team that I'm watching the most right now. So we'll see. Things have got to play out. And this is crazy time of the year, man. This is closing in on signing day. This is when, things go back and forth. You hear rumors that you check into, that you look into, and there's nothing to it. Maybe there is something to it. So there's a lot going on at this time of the year. So I'm interested to see how it plays out.
Yeah, no doubt. Great stuff as always, Blake. Let everybody know how they can follow you on Twitter and read everything y'all have on y'all's website.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate that. My Twitter is at Blake_Alderman, ALDERMAN. That's where a lot of my stuff goes out there. I don't really tweet anything very interesting these days anymore. Basically, it's just links and stories. But those links to those stories go to Swamp 24/7. That's Florida's 24/7 sports site. So it's a busy time of the year for me, Graham Hall, Jacob Rudner. We're busy with recruiting and portal and the coaching search things that are going on right now. So the Florida Gators recruiting beat and team beat is keeping us all very busy right now.
Yes, it is. And we appreciate you taking time to join our program. Have a great holiday, my man, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot. You as well.
That's Blake Alderman. Join us on the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. Let's get to this day in sports. Brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. In 1993 and 2000, two semis won the Heisman Trophy. Charlie Ward in 1993 and Chris Winkie, who was about 29 years old, in 2000. That's This Day in Sports, brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. I want to thank Blake Alderman and JC for joining us on the Titan MR hotline. We had a million questions here. I just couldn't get them all. But Blake, he does a tremendous job when it comes to recruiting. And a lot of these guys, I don't even know who they are when y'all ask these questions. I don't follow recruiting. Ted wants to know, does DJ still have impact on X and LJ? Possibly. You can only do so much. A lot of it comes down to what's that other school going to pay you? And they go from there. Barone says, before we get out of here, I see Strickland is nothing but a fundraiser and construction overseer. It's the only thing Strickland did at Mississippi State, build new facilities. So Foley handpicked him to be the next AD. All right. Barone says to build the facilities that Foley neglected. So anyway, hope you enjoyed today's program. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. Tell all your friends and family to check out our program. We'd appreciate it. Have a great day, folks. Take care.